to Talking TSM, the Game House's talk show about TSM's LCS team. I am your host and your guide into the world of TSM, Robert Haynes, and I'm excited to be here. I apologize for the 1 day delay in this episode. I had to travel a little bit yesterday. Again, most of the time, these things are going to be Monday, Thursday, I promise. I know I said that last week. That is the intention. It's just been a little bit busier than I anticipated in ways that I completely did not anticipate, and for reasons that I did not anticipate. So I'm really excited to talk today. I know that most of you would be like, Rob, why are you excited? We lost both games, 0-2, against Dignitas and Evil Geniuses. And listen, like I get it. I do. I am not gonna sit here and claim, oh yes, TSM lost. This is great, right? Like, no. That's not what I'm gonna sit here and do. What I am going to do is I'm going to go over these games. We're going to discuss them. And I'm going to be excited because we have League back and we have something to analyze, right? And I'm okay with them going 0-2 because that means that they have a lot to learn, right? I'd rather that than them get overconfident and be 2-0 and have surprised everybody with a win over Evil Geniuses, and then done what I think some people expected with Dignitas. Dignitas looks good. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think Dignitas looks a lot better than I thought. I guess maybe I'm not giving Blue enough credit. Blue didn't die this weekend, by the way. He just straight up didn't die. I don't really know what to make of this Dignitas team right now. Like, when I do my power rankings later this week, I'm going to really try to take a deep dive into what's going on with this Dignitas team because they're playing very, very, very well. And I think I need to give them a little bit more credence because it feels like they're playing to their strengths very well. And I don't know. We'll see. We'll go over the games. But listen, guys, like, before I dive too deeply into this TSM team, I think, has a lot of heart. And we shouldn't be down. Like, again, before I dive into this, guys, patience. Okay, I'm preaching this over the last 2 years. When your team has major changes. It's not like some teams that keep 3 players. Maybe 4 players and the coach. We kept Spica and Huni. That was it. Everything else is brand new. And we're experimenting with 2 Chinese players for the very first time in LCS history. There's never been 2 Chinese players on one team other than, what was their name? LMQ when they were over here, right? And that was before franchising, if I remember correctly. So, well, definitely before franchising. I think it was only in season 2 or 3 of the LCS. So, it was very, very early on. And so this is, and Chawi, is in his first time coaching too. I can't wait to see, TSM Legends as well come out because we're going to learn a lot about this team and their mentality through that show. That's what I watched that show for. I love the highs and the lows and, the interesting personalities that we surely have, but, it's the mindset of these players once they lose or once they win. And we saw that a lot last year. So, just be patient, give this team time, and let's just dive into it. So first game here against Evil Geniuses. I honestly had no real, squabbles, if you want to say that word. I had no issues with our draft other than the Senna. And, the reason being that this, the Senna just doesn't feel like the champion that, that tactical is going to feel real comfortable on. I understand that she's honestly a pretty solid pick. In general, I think that she is a pretty good champion in the meta right now. But when I'm looking at our team comp, right? Jace, great poke damage. Kaido can poke, can do consistent damage. But the Senna, right, is much more of poke / maybe a little bit of burst, especially once you get later and later into the game. The problem is we didn't really play around that, and this Senna did not have the time to scale in a productive way. And when you don't have consistent sources of damage coming out, right? Like, the goal is, when you look at this team, and they did this a couple times, is you layer the CC of the Poppy and the Rel along, and then you have the Jace pop in with a Q, gate into a Q, then runs through, switches to his hammer form, brings the hammer down, does a crap ton of damage all at once, right? And the Senna's there to do some healing. Kaido can layer over his damage, like throw in his W for his cage. Like, it works to a certain degree, but the Senna just doesn't feel good in this situation, because if you don't catch somebody and burst somebody, and when you have somebody like Gwen on the other side, it causes issues. So I'm looking at this draft and I'm like, okay, the Senna is a good play into the Zeri, right? Because Senna can actually slow down the Zeri. Every time that she hits them, she doesn't need Glacial Augment anymore. She can just slow them naturally. It was something added to Senna's kit more recently, in case if you didn't know that. So this is I like the idea to a certain degree, but I just felt like it doesn't fit tactical, and it's hard for a Senna and a Rel to really follow up damage wise. Once they get their initial burst Q, especially early on. I mean, that kind of paid off for him initially, but yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. The Senna pick, I didn't like at the very beginning of the draft, and I didn't like it as as this game goes on, and you can see why. And listen, this weekend was a weird weekend for tactical for sure, and I'm sure it was a bit of a wake up call. I didn't see anything overly concerning about tactical, but again, we'll dive into it. Sorry, there's a lot on the brain with these games right now. I ended up having to watch, because I had so much going on Saturday. I ended up having to watch the first game late at night after experiencing what was the worst migraine of my entire life by a pretty large margin. And so I had to rewatch this game in particular this morning, because I was kind of like out of it while watching it the first time. And I watched it in its entirety. This time I mostly just watched a highlight to kind of like remind myself of what happened. And I remembered more than I would have liked. I think the initial 2v2 bot lane was encouraging to me because, like I said, the Senna does counter the Zeri to a certain degree. I think Rel into Leona is honestly a pretty solid pick, especially when you have somebody like Shinyi who loves to get in there, loves to, layer the CC. I think he's very good at it. And we saw this in their very first fight, right? The Rel, jumps in. Shinyi jumps right in as soon as he sees Vulcan going on to Tactical. Tactical's able to layer over the healing. They're able to burst, and sadly, Tactical has to flash out, but Shinyi's able to get the kill, and TSM are able to go up 1-0, which was awesome, right? Like I love the play here, and initially they're keeping the CS very close, but then I say initially because by about, I don't know, maybe like the 15-minute mark, 10-15-minute mark, somewhere around there. I look down and Tactical's down 50 CS because he's left in the lane as a Senna. There's not a lot of wave clear with a Senna, in case if you haven't played her. It's not great wave clear. It's okay, especially once you get later into the game, but initially it's not really there. And Zeri can just continuously auto attack with her Q and her regular auto attack, which her Q technically is, and her clear is very solid. It's pretty easy to do, especially when she uses her E to create the piercing damage, where it's just going through the waves. So she has not a great clear, honestly, but a better clear than a Senna. And so, I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, well, Tactical's down 50 CS. That's cool, I guess. And, oh, by the way, we have no dragons? Wait, what? Why do we have no dragons? The whole point of this game is for it to go late. You can control how late a game goes if you have dragons. Not if you have Rift Heralds. And I get the first Rift Herald. Whatever, that's fine. Like, Spica had priority in the top lane at the time. That's cool. But there seemed to be no urgency until super late in the game to get a dragon. And I understand, like, I really do get it. Dragon fights and whatnot are what they are. In terms of when you're trying to position for dragon, if you don't have the vision, if you don't have people in the right spots, it's better to try to take your advantages elsewhere. Okay? And I truly 100% understand that. But when your bot laner is down by 50 CS, and you as Spica, are playing Poppy, and you've had no impact so far early in the game, and all you have been able to do realistically is get a Rift Herald, that's a problem in my book. And not just that, but then they go for the second one, and they die there again. I don't understand what this fascination is with this LCS team and dying at Rift Herald. I don't know if it's a Spica is just because, like, he's the only consistent part of this two years in a row, and we're into game one of the 2022 season, and we're playing arguably one of the best teams in the LCS. Not even arguably, definitely one of the best teams in the LCS. Very closely. A lot closer than I think most people would have thought. And you're making a call at Rift to hey, everybody, let's, Hooney's out of position. We're just going to go for this. We die at Rift, but God dang it, we got that Rift Herald. Like, come on, man. I thought we learned from this stuff last year. And now EG has 3 dragons. And we have to fight into them. That's not what we want. We want them to come into us. We have so much zoning potential with this comp. Right? The Poppy W, the Poppy R, the Victor W, the Victor R, the Senna W, the Senna E, to be able to mask everybody. Right? Shenyi being able to just turn around a fight whenever he wants to by diving in, knocking them up, stunning them, ulting them. We have layers upon layers of CC, but it doesn't work as well if you're the one having to go in on it. And we see this throughout this game. Because guess what else? Your Senna, she can't get out any damage if she's having to go into a fight. And in general, Tactical just did like no damage this game. I can't say that I looked at the damage charts. You know what? Here, I'm gonna see if I can find this real quick, because this is coming up in my mind right now, and I'm like, wait, this might be interesting to see. I don't want to claim that he did no damage if he did damage, and I'm just stupid and didn't check. All right, let's see here. Damage. Where are we at? Total damage to champions. All right, here we go. Tactical did 8,000 damage. Hooney and Kaiduo did 21, almost 22,000 damage, and 25,000 damage, respectively. They did more damage than basically everybody else on the other team. And that's the crux of this. If you have, like, yes, they do plenty of damage, I get it, but it's all burst damage, right? They couldn't finish these kills. Man, looking at that damage chart, you could, if you were in solo queue, it's like, well, I did 25k damage. Well, you lost. And the crazy thing is Danny did most of his damage in one fight when he got his pentakill. I guarantee you he did like 6k, 7k damage, probably 6k damage of his 18,000 damage in that game. And yet, we have Tactical doing 8,000 damage. Again, damage is not all encompassing. But when your AD carry does 10k less damage than his opponent, when you are the AD carry, that usually means you're playing Senna or something supportive. And maybe it didn't work. And it didn't. I mean, it really did not work. It's pretty obvious to me that this didn't work. I mean, I don't know. It's crazy to me how much this didn't work. It's reminiscent, funny enough, of a double lift early Senna game until he finally really figured out the champion. So he grinded until he could grind no more and figured out the champion. And so I harp back to this because I do think that it was a big problem. We would be able to get the initial burst damage, especially from Huni in a lot of these fights. But then Kaido's not enough damage until, a little bit later in the game to really, truly, have that consistent damage that takes over the entire fight. And so, realistically, Tactical's just there to heal, kind of, and provide some CC. And I don't think he really used his E very well either. To try to, the mist. I don't think he used that very well either. But you could tell he's just not super comfortable, on that champion. And that champion requires a lot of good communication as well. And when you look at Tactical's career, he has played 4 games of Senna. That was his first loss on her. So I guess that's something. But you look at the CS marks, okay? And he always played fasting Senna before this. He was averaging 90 CS. This game, he had 247. And I can tell you, as somebody who's played Senna, it's very different to play fasting Senna than to play AD carry Senna or to play damage Senna. So, yeah. And just like, again, I just want to reiterate, we have to be more proactive on Dragons, and I will dive into that in the next game too. Kaido looked awesome. Kaido looked awesome. I was very surprised. I mean, apparently the Victor Rise matchup, Victor is going to be down in CS. Whatever, that's fine. When I went to look at the stats, like Kaido was basically even in terms of laning. So, he got that, what he was down back in the next game. But he was everywhere. He's getting kills. He's helping out the team, making good plays. I felt like his positioning was really solid in most of the fights. And clearly, he was pumping out damage. This SOB goes out here and pumps out almost 25,000 damage. When everybody else is, pretty below that other than Huni. He was 7k damage more than Danny. And his map awareness was great. He was everywhere. He didn't get ganked at the wrong time. I kept waiting. I'm like, oh, God, this Jarvan's going to come in. He's going to push too much. Nope. Didn't have that issue. Sure, he was getting pushed into his tower a decent amount, but when he had the opportunity to overextend, he didn't. And this kid is confident, man. Can you ask for any more than that? Then he goes down and he 1v1's Impact. Apparently Victor's kind of a counter to Gwen. You can just drop the Storm on her and it doesn't really matter. You know, she's got to take that damage. I was very impressed with Kaido. I really was. It wasn't just about him getting kills, like whatever. You know, any AD carry can get kills. But it felt like he was consistently in good position to pump out damage and help his team. I would have loved to see his cage be used a little bit more proactively in team fights. But other than that, this kid looked good. I will be completely honest. And against Jojo Pion too, one of the up and coming stars. If things go the way that I'm sure EG and TSM are hoping, this was our first look at what will be one of the hopefully long-term mid lane matchups of the future. Kaido v Jojo Pion. And hopefully it'll be an elite one because I think that they're going to challenge each other to be better. I have so much admiration for this EG team. I really do. I think that this team is excellent. And we held our own. In all regards, until the super bad Rift fight. And even then, we still kind of stayed in it. You know, this team can make plays. They know to go around the map. They look a lot more polished than I would have thought, considering it was their first ever stage game. And again, they were playing Evil Geniuses who had not lost a single game in the lock-in until the finals against, you know, a super veteran TL team. And I can guarantee you that when EG plays Team Liquid again, especially if they get them in a best-of series, that's not going to happen. I would put a lot of money down on that. This Evil Geniuses team is a top 2 team in the LCS. I don't care what anybody says. And they will be all of this year and probably even into next year. This team is only going to get better. They're one of the youngest teams in the LCS. I think we're the 3rd youngest. I believe they're the 2nd youngest or the 1st youngest. I can't remember. I think they're first, then C9, then us. Somewhere around there. Because I think Jojo Pion's only like 18. A couple years younger than Kaido. But I mean, guys, this is a prime matchup. This is what we wanted. I wanted to see them, and I said this. I expected them to lose, but as long as they played well, I wasn't going to complain too much. And yes, I'm going to criticize the different things that happened in this game. And I truly believe, you can quote me on this. I believe that if Tactical had played, I don't know, let's see who's available. Jinx. I think he could have played Jinx. Aphelios was open. Those are like 2 of the top meta picks right now. Even Jhin. I think Jhin would have been okay here, but not great. I would have loved to have seen the Jinx or the Aphelios here. And when you look at all time, Aphelios has 19 games. I would have been happy to see that. He doesn't play a lot of Jinx, though. I didn't realize that. 0-2 all time on Jinx. Very interesting. But regardless, I think a more consistent DPS in terms of damage, I honestly, I think that they could have won this game with that. And it's not his play individually, by the way. I just think the pick would have been more fortuitous for TSM. It would have been more threatening than the Senna. I don't mind the Senna pick in individually, like as a pick. I think Senna is a lot stronger than people realize. And I think Senna into Zeri makes sense. But I think with the rest of this team, I would have liked to have seen something different. So, listen, again, after this first game, I was like, okay, like, we're heading into this Dignitas game, right? We're heading into this Dignitas game, and I feel pretty good. Like, I'm like, okay, like, they've got some good stuff going on. I feel like they are in a space that will allow us to find some positivity. Hopefully they will see it in a similar vein. And hopefully they will learn from the mistakes that they made. And hopefully, they will come out ready to roll against a team that I still think is overplaying. This reminds me of last year's Dignitas team where they are overperforming. They are outkicking their coverage. They are I'm not, it's just, I don't know. It's hard. I don't want to take anything away from them. The LCS has leveled up, guys. Dignitas was the consensus worst team in the LCS heading into the lock-in final, into the lock-in in general. Okay, every single power rankings I read, Dignitas 9th or 10th. Dignitas 9th or 10th. You know, we just didn't see it. Fake God hadn't played well. He's played well now. Blue was terrible over, in the LEC. I mean, seriously, he was really bad. He's been playing out of his mind. Neo, we knew would be good. A lot of people thought River might be coming over here just for a paycheck. That's clearly not true. And nobody knew what to expect from Biofrost. This is like Biofrost in his prime, by the way. I mean, he is playing extraordinarily well. I will honestly argue with you guys that Biofrost was probably the MVP of this Dignitas game. I think he played out of his mind. I mean, his Thresh was really, really good. I mean, it was everywhere where it needed to be. It was hitting all the hooks that it needed to. He was placing his boxes perfectly. Felt like his roam timings were really good. I mean, this guy looked really strong. And, yeah, I mean, let's just dive into it. I mean, I think this is a better draft for us in general. I like the Graves top. I like what we did with Huni in general, to be completely honest with you guys. I just don't love the matchups for the team fighting, right? Because, like, it felt like they wanted Huni to split push, like, a lot, both games. Whether it was the Graves pick or the Jace, like, those are great split pushers. They can be obviously useful in team fights in different ways, but in general, I like this. It's fine, especially if you're going to speak on Poppy, which in general I also like. Especially into Jarvan, Gwen. In the game before, Jarvan, Gwen, Leona, and Zeri. In isolation, this Poppy pick is fine. Didn't work. I like that, the Ryze mirror matchup went really well for Kaido. I like the Zeri pick, and I don't mind the Yuumi, but I don't like it on Shinyi. Okay? Shinyi loves to go around the map and have an impact and be engaging and do all these different things. And with literally any other pick, and I do mean literally any other pick, because even with a Lulu or a Karma or whatever, any other enchanter, Janna, should that show up again, this man can go around and, have an impact in these games. The problem is, you can't with Yuumi. Yeah, you can attach to people and everything like that, but, like, you're stuck. You're stuck with whoever you're attached to. And, if I am the opposing team, Yuumi Poppy doesn't really scare me at all. Oh no, Yuumi Poppy. Wow, okay, I just gotta outlast their initial burst damage, which is really not too much. Especially early on, unless if this Yuumi gets some kills and can get some damage items, which probably isn't going to happen in the LCS. Didn't. Yuumi Graves, oh boy. I mean, unless if it's a 1v2 or even a 2v2, it's still not all that frightening. Oh no, Yuumi Ryze. I mean, it's really Yuumi Zeri, so he kind of has to stay down there. And Aphelios can clear a lot quicker. The damage is a little bit better. And he's got a Thresh. I mean, it wasn't a bad pick. Again, in isolation, Yumi's strong. And Yuumi Zeri's pretty solid. But I just don't like the matchup. And I don't like Yuumi on Shenyi. I kind of hope we never see it again. And it wasn't that Shenyi played it necessarily as badly. It's just it doesn't play to his strengths. At least from what we've seen. Maybe there's a new strength. And I mean, we're only 2 games in, so I guess, who am I to say that Shinji can't play a great Yuumi? But, I don't know, whatever. Bot fight goes wrong. early on, and I'm thinking, okay, Yumi, Poppy, and Zeri, into J4. I think it was Green Gun and maybe White Gun, Aphelios, and Thresh. I'm like, okay, like if they can just wipe this Aphelios early, they got a good chance. I was wrong. I was very wrong. Tactical misses 3 autos. You can watch that fight back. I watched it, I think, 3 times now. He misses one into the wall, misses one in between them, and misses another one. I can't remember exactly where. And the thing is with his ultimate, you just don't want to miss. Hit the thing that's closest to you. You get the chain damage anyways, right? I'm not an expert on Zeri. I'm not. But I can tell you that missing 3 straight autos in a fight that's that close is going to cost you. And it does. It does in a big way. He did not look comfortable on this pick in these team fights. And I don't know if that's necessarily 100% of the time a skirmish should go their way, but it feels like it should have for me. It feels like if Poppy eased the Aphelios into whatever wall, or at least the Jarvan, right? You're knocking out that damage for a second. Right? You W as the Poppy to keep the Thresh from being able to hook in. Like, he can hook, but he can't come in. And the Yumi with the alt layering, the healing, the little bit of damage that she gets automatically from just hitting her Q from the person in front, feels like that should be an okay fight if the Zeri takes over, which with having her ultimate in that fight, which she did, it feels, I'm pretty sure, at least, again, for some reason my mind is now doubting that he had his ult. I'm pretty sure he did have his ult. They should have won that fight, in my opinion. I really do think so. You kill the Aphelios, the damage is gone. And Poppy can tank through anything that Jarvan, because Jarvan has realistically nothing after he uses his ult. Now, I'm pretty sure also the Yumi, for some reason, didn't have her heal at that moment. It's a pretty long cooldown. So maybe it was just a fight at the wrong time. I don't know. It just felt weird. Felt like a fight that TSM should have won. I'm a little surprised that Tactical didn't reposition. I know that he was probably trying to save his E to get out of the fight if he needed to, but I think he just ends up using Flash anyways. I would have liked for him to have not gotten in the fight with the E, because I believe he also uses that. That's the dash that can go over walls. I would have liked for him to wait until the Jarvan ult and then pop over to the left side there and just be able to free fire his Q into the rest of the team and even use his W through the wall, which he doesn't do. There was positioning errors, I think, in a major way in that fight. And everybody's getting back, you're either you're not being hard enough or you're being too hard on Tactical. Guys, Tactical's got a really tough thing to do this season. When you go from Core JJ to Shinyi, and it's not that Shinyi is bad, but Core JJ's English was pretty solid. Shinyi's is not. It is not there yet, by any stretch. The communication, like, he's basically playing, duo queue with a guy he met on the internet. Right? And you've done that before. Like, you got some good games. You feel good. Feel like you know each other, and then some things go wrong. They're learning. They're getting there, but, Tactical's in a pretty bad position. And I want to give him a couple weeks before we start crapping on him too hard. Kaidoa looks great again through most of the game. I mean, this kid's, looking for plays all freaking game in the top lane, in the bot lane. He finally gets one in the top lane, helps him get a kill up there. He's doing well in his matchup. And, Blue really can't do much. Blue's just trying to stay alive and play safe. Not really a lane that Poppy could have done much in anyways. But, I think he's the MVP for me of these two games. I mean, realistically, he played very, very well on, yes, champions that he's comfortable on, but whatever. Who cares? This guy can play a lot of different champions. It's very obvious. It's extremely obvious that he can play a lot of champions, and he is much more talented than I thought he was. He's confident. His positioning, again, in this game is so strong, and he's constantly looking for things. He's getting out of lane, trying to make plays. I think once him and Spica kind of figure it out, they're going to be a deadly duo. I mean, really deadly. I can't wait to see Kaido play Bjergsen, just for fun. I think Bjergsen probably ends up winning it, but I was really hesitant. I said Kaido could be great or he could be pretty bad. I'm starting to lean more towards the great side than the bad. I really was like, until I see him play, I can't say more than just down the middle, but he could be great. It's only 2 games in. I understand that. But, and yes, he's played 2 mid laners that have their issues, right? Jojo Pion is young. He still has a lot of things to learn. Blue is pretty young and didn't have a lot of success before, but is figuring himself out now. Or at least it seems like that. But through 2 games, where I'm starting to lean from the middle is more towards this guy could be great. Like, I really wonder if TSM were like, oh my god, this Kaido guy is something else. They clearly knew something we did not. He has not looked overwhelmed once. Outside of, sadly, the one fight I'll talk about here against the Gwen, which was ridiculous. I don't even really blame him for that one. I hope he doesn't get too confident, though. It feels like he might. I'm a little worried about that. That he might try to take too many fights that he shouldn't, which is a thing that a younger player will do, that a newer player will try to do to try to impress. And Kaido apparently said in an interview with InVen, with my guy Nick Garrissey, something about if the support and the jungle are never in the mid lane, I'm gonna win mid every time. Basically saying that in the lane matchup itself, he's gonna win. I went and checked. He's not yet. He's down in CS and XP still at 10, which is fine. I think specifically the Victor Rise matchup. He's about even. He's right about in the middle there, which is great for him because, again, I love the confidence. I want him to be confident. I want him to believe that he is a great mid laner because guess what? Confidence is absolutely crucial in this game. If you start doubting your abilities, then you're not going to be able to succeed. Feels like Kaido is not going to doubt his abilities, and that's great. We want that. We want that in a very serious way. As long as he doesn't take it overboard and start trying to take, 1v3 fights like some solo queue, mid laner that thinks they're God chosen one. Like, no, we're not doing that. Okay. Hoodney Graves, solid solo, but he did not play team fights very well, I don't feel like. Individually, he was up in CS on Fake God. I expected him to. His laning stats were solid. He was ahead in both games and ended up being ahead by 10 minutes in a pretty decent way. I think he's like 4th or something like that in gold and XP difference. So Hooney looks solid. I really like. A lot of people are gonna be like, Hooney didn't do much. Like, Hooney wasn't great. Like, no, they gave Hooney 2 champions to win lanes in, and he won lane in both of them against Gwen, who is a absolute thorn in our side. I hate it. I hate it so much. They need to just start banning this freaking champion. I'm tired of her. I'm already sick of her. I don't care. Ugh. Give up the karma. I don't care. I would rather see a Karma than a Gwen any day, and I think they're hopefully going to make that change. Or Hooney needs to learn how to play Gwen. I don't understand it. We've gone 2 years now, well, a year and a half technically, where Gwen has been available, and I don't think Hooney has played her once. Let me make sure that that's right. Looking now. Out of the 65 champions that he has played, there are 155, by the way. Gwen is not one of them. And most of those 155 can't be played in the top lane. So he's played nearly every top lane champion known to man. But he can't play Gwen. They either need to ban her, pick her for Spica, or pick her for Huni. But I can't stand seeing her turn these team fights like she did in both games. Because I'm telling you right now, Fake God's better than I thought he was going to be this year. I think everybody would agree with that. But Huni's better than Spica. Or Huni's better than Spica. Huni is better than Fake God. Okay? He just is. And there's no way that they should be as much of an issue as it is. But again, I like the Huni Graves. I really do. I kind of hope that they play it some more. Because I think if he can get a little bit better in these team fights, I think that could be a really fun pick for him going forward. I think that could be a very good pick for him going forward. I really, truly believe that. I really like the idea of Huni Graves. Especially when Jace gets banned. Yeah, I love this pick in general. I just don't think it played... Just didn't do what we needed him to in a team fight. And he'll get there with that. Macro play was great from us, other than Dragon again. I don't understand it, you know? I mean, Rift Herald Control, we got that first one. We got that one on lockdown. At least we're not throwing it first Rift. It seems to be second Rift that we have a problem with this year. So I'll give them that. First Rift Control is solid. They're getting towers. They are beating down towers. Especially when they shouldn't be. They're cross-mapping pretty well. They're moving around the map pretty well. The ward coverage, not too bad. But they're giving up dragons. Early dragons for no reason. You know, either pick the bot lane a better matchup, or Spica needs to be down there early to have an impact to allow them to transition into a dragon. I understand teams are letting dragons, go till about 9-10 minutes most of the time. If that's the case, then set up around it and don't just give that stuff up for free, because here's what can happen for you. You go to dragon, you know the other team's probably going to be there, right? And you know that your bot lane's gotten pushed in. But you say, hey, you know what? Guys, I understand that you don't want to lose too much CS. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to, move Kaido, who's generally been able to push in lane. And we're going to have Spica there. And we are going to counter attack them as soon as we see them moving into the dragon pit. And hopefully we will win the fight. And thus, if we win the fight, then bot lane can kick it right down, go get their CS, push their lane in, go B. Then, while they are doing that, with the hopeful leftovers of mid lane and jungle both being alive, or at least the jungler being alive, you move your way up into the top lane, and you help Huni, and then you transition that into the first Rift Herald. I know it's a lot more complicated than that. I understand that there's so many things that could go wrong, so many other intricacies. But I mean, come on. Don't continuously trade first Drake for Rift if you're going to not have a comp that is able to play into fighting for dragons later. And they didn't. They did not. Who goes in outside of the Poppy on this comp? Cue the Jeopardy music. The answer is nobody. The answer is nobody. They wanted to 1-3-1. Great. I like the idea in isolation. That's the theme of the day. I think Chawi is making solid picks and decisions in isolation. I think in the way that the meta works. Before a team like this that has these issues of communication, of the ability to team fight. I don't know that they've won a single team fight. They've won a lot of skirmishes, but I don't know if they've won a team fight yet. And you want to know why? Because communication is a problem. And when you're running a 1-3-1, you have to be able to communicate well. You have to be able to call for TP flanks. You have to be able to call for TPs in a good way. And right now, all that pressure is on Spica, which Poppy, the one great thing and the reason why I have not complained about Poppy much as other people might, is because she's super simple. Spica doesn't have to worry about mechanics with Poppy, really, because he has a lot of other stuff on his plate. So you give him a champion where it's simple. You E them into a wall, you Q them, you W when you see somebody's jumping in, and you hit them up to stall fights or to knock people out of fights. It's a very, very simple champion. Her clear is fine. She works really well into this meta. And not even in isolation, I think Poppy is a great pick, even for Spica. It's just he didn't do much, and I think he's probably having to communicate so much in the game that he is missing out on opportunities to push them forward. And with a 1-3-1 comp, there has to be a lot of coordination, a lot of good communication. Okay, where are they at? And in this game, they really didn't have a chance to 1-3-1 because guess what? Nobody could 1v1 the freaking Gwen. Everybody, like, they were moving both, Huni and Kaido to try to fight this Victor because they knew both of them could take Blue if they needed to 1v1. While Blue, yes, didn't die, he didn't play great. He was good at positioning and he didn't die. Good for him. But this 1-3-1 didn't work because neither of them could solo the Gwen. Neither of them could. And this Gwen wasn't even fed. And when Kaido finally tries to, which he killed the Gwen, with the Victor, so I'm sure he probably felt, well, I'm up an item and a half. There's no way that this Gwen should be able to kill me. Now, he picked a bad spot, I think, to fight her. Excuse me. And yeah, that wasn't advantageous for him. But the fact that a 1.5 item Gwen, who, yes, hits basically everything, whatever, can kill a 3 item Rise is absolutely ridiculous. That is so stupid. Now whether the Rise build was tank or not, whatever, I don't really care. And yes, Fimbulwinter and I forget what the third item was. Frozen Heart. Although Frozen Heart does slow down the auto attacks for Gwen, so it kind of works, but like in terms of the actual defense, it doesn't. The fact that he can't kill her with full combos, with everything, with being in her, in her W or in her mist, I think is really stupid. I understand she heals a lot, right? She kept him from healing with the Ignite. I believe it was Ignite, if I remember correctly. Like, I get it. That's fine. But, like, I don't know, it just feels like an impossible situation. I mean, what's the Grave supposed to do as well? Like, you can't 1v1. So right now, like, the best thing you could do is do a 1-4, right? Where you're sending Huni on side lane missions against wherever Victor's at, and then you just have to sacrifice wherever the Gwen is, and then try to get your advantages in the mid lane by, throwing Kaido there as well. But again, that just takes a lot of communication. These are much more complicated strategies than people might think. People might think, oh, 1-3-1, super easy. No, it's not. At this level, it is not. Maybe in your solo queue game, sure, but at this level, no. I don't think that's a good strategy for them. Baron fight was terrible. I mean, I don't, I get that they're just going in there to try to poke and, do a little bit, but they should know that as soon as Dignitas see that them and that Huni is not there, they're going to turn. And the problem is whoever made the call to take Huni off of Dragon, that was a huge freaking mistake. I mean, absolutely. As soon as you see that fight and you see that you're losing, there's nothing that Huni could have done to make that fight better other than being there at the onset of the fight. So what they needed to do was say, all right, whoever can, just stall them long enough so that Huni can get this dragon so that we don't automatically lose. Right? Because at least if Huni lives and gets the dragon, at least they don't have Dragon Soul and Baron, right? And at least there's somebody there to defend and clear some waves at a minimum, which Graves is solid at clearing waves. And he could have stalled long enough to increase the time on this game and given TSM a better chance to come back. But instead, he roams to mid and then starts to try to go back to Dragon. And it's like, well, I guess this is over. And I honestly know, like, seeing this team comp, they have plenty of clear. They have plenty of clear. Just take the dragon, and if you don't have position in the Baron, give it up. I mean, seriously, this is like this Dignitas team is not like really good at sieging. They're just going to try to dive you, and if you survive the initial dive, you're probably going to be fine. Like, yes, you might lose 2 inhibitors. You probably do. But you don't lose the game. So if you really don't think you can do anything other than, then stall them at Baron, then send 2 people, get the Drake, and then try to fight. And yes, they have Aphelios, they have, the Victor, they have the Gwen. Like, they're going to burn that Baron no matter what. And if you have no vision and you have no ability to get in there other than the Poppy, like we talked about, and then Shenyi unfortunately is stuck and can't use his ult correctly. Right? He uses his ult, but they have to dive out, so the ult's pretty much completely useless there, which is the only real great team fighting tool that Yuumi has at that point. The only way to be able to keep Dignitas from diving your backline. It's a mess. It's just a mess. And here's the deal. Like, this game was also extremely close. We were up for most of this game, actually. It wasn't a huge lead or anything, but we were winning most of this game. But again, we had to fight over dragons. We were behind on dragons. We lost fights at dragons because we waited until they had 2 before we even got our first one, which is fine. It's okay. If I'm Chawi, I'm saying, okay, no matter what, we're getting one of the first 2 dragons. I don't care which one, but it at least extends the game for 15 to 20 minutes, especially if you're going to take some picks like, the Senna, the Victor, the Rise, the Zeri, all of these picks that scale. Zeri is pretty poor in the early game. I shouldn't even say pretty. She's very poor in the early game. And Zeri Yuumi is not a great lane in general, especially early on. Okay, so there's some drive mistakes. There's a lot of different mistakes, and that's fine. Here are my overall thoughts. Okay, communication is obviously a problem, and that's okay. We expect this. We really do. Skirmishing is solid. We're winning a lot of 2v2s, 3v2s, 3v3s even, most of the time. 2v1s, 1v2s even a little bit to a certain degree. Skirmishing's fine. I really think that the individual, because it's not as much communication. It's pretty obvious what you need to do in a skirmish. Team fighting's a little different. And team fighting's just not really there for this team yet. But the sad thing is that when a team is like this and they need time to come together, team fighting also solves a lot of these issues when you have late game scaling team fighting. Like, I mean, you look at, again, this Dignitas and this Evil Genius's, comps. They're all team fighting. Gwen is great at team fighting. Jarvan is great at team fighting. He can zone off. He can do a lot of different things. The Aphelios, great at team fighting. I think our first team comp was really okay at team fighting if we just had a more consistent, AD damage than the Jace and the Senna. Then the second game, it's like, oh, we've got more very consistent AD damage from the Graves and we had very consistent damage in general, but you don't have that extra engage tool. It's either Poppy goes in and dies or you lose. And I don't think Poppy's tanky enough, especially with the build that Spica was doing, to be able to do that, to be able to accomplish that. Especially into a Gwen, J4, and Thresh. And he's going to get burned down by the Victor and the Aphelios before she can do anything. And that's exactly what happened. So if they're going to pick more team fights, that's fine. Just pick a little bit more reliable engage. Like, I truly think that these games are a little bit different if they pick, I don't know, what would be good here? I think maybe, I don't know, almost any other engage really into the, I mean, even like a Lulu, I think would have been better for the Zeri, to be completely honest with you. And I actually I like Lulu. Now I think about it a lot, because you can also make, the Poppy, big and with the ultimate and give her a little bit more survivability. I don't know. I think a lot of other picks for support would have been helpful in that last game. And I think in the first game, I think if you pick nearly almost any other AD carry, I think, again, the Senna works in isolation into the Zeri, but I just don't like it with the rest of the comp. So, just things that they're learning, and hopefully they'll have better comps for team fighting specifically, and hopefully their team fighting will get better. But it all becomes a problem with communication, because their team fighting's bad because of communication. So, it almost seems like an unsolvable wheel. What will solve it is just getting better communication, and that just takes time. They need to ban or play Gwen every game. Okay? Just get her out of here, man. Fake God's not great. He's okay. He's not great. Fake God should not be able to have the impact that he had in that game. I'm sorry. Huni's better than him. Kaido's way better than him. It just shouldn't be able to happen. Gwen is so forgiving. It's so easy once you get past level 6. And unless if she's getting, 3v1, she's going to potentially be able to just straight up live. Like, as soon as she gets her heal item, I think it's like Rift something. I can't remember the exact name. Sorry, I don't play much top lane, but I know Rift is in there somewhere, I'm pretty sure. But whatever that item is, when she gets the leech item even, to a certain degree, her Omnivamp is there. She can heal. A lot. So just ban her or play her. Man, somebody play this champion. She's strong. She's super OP. At least in pro play. I mean, you see her in LEC games, LCK games, LPL games. She's strong. She's very strong here. In the LCS as well. Spiga needs to be more involved early. I mean, listen, I get it with Poppy, but it's not like you're trying to out-farm or outscale, try to get to level 6 with Poppy. No, your strengths are early game. She beats Jarvan before and really after level 6 all the time. Like, they should be invading the jungle, which, again, comes to communication to a certain degree, constantly. Like, it should have been, Spica and Kaido going into jungle trying to hunt down this J4 in both games, because I'm telling you, J4 cannot beat them together. J4 can't even beat Poppy individually. Once he ults and EQs, his damage is gone. It is, he gets that first hit in, he does nothing. I mean, it is like getting hit with a wet noodle. If you can minimize his impact, if we're going to continuously give up Jarvan, which is fine, I don't have a problem with that. I don't think Jarvan's all that great. I think he's okay, but I consistently feel like the Poppy should be way better than the Jarvan. And I want to see Spica do more. I mean, there was opportunities in the bot lane. They're getting pushed in. Just go down there. Get your team the opportunity to take more Drakes. I get it. You want to play towards Huni, but guess what? Huni's pushing them into the freaking tower. You know, and Kaido isn't giving you many openings, so go to bot lane. They were giving you plenty, especially in that first game, man. If he had gone bot multiple times, I just can't see a world where Danny is able to even really have a good time in this game at all. But it just felt like he was kind of absent. It reminds me of last year. And yes, you know, my biggest thing last year was I was looking at his kill participation, and you know, he's like, you know, was like in like the low 60s or whatever. I mean, he's in 76% of the kills this year, and that's great. That is great, but most of that's coming after like the 10-15 minute mark. I'm just saying, and I know that he knows this. This is not to speak to him. I'm just kind of explaining it, hopefully, to you all and helping you all. And I think it's just that he has a lot of pressure on himself to perform. And I'm sure that he's trying to communicate back and forth in English and in Mandarin to help this team come together and make these calls correctly. So I'm sure it's frustrating. And this is the time to do it, by the way, too. Like, spring doesn't matter. I don't care about spring. You know, again, my goal this whole time is as long as we make playoffs, I don't really care. If we don't make playoffs, then I think there's some major problems, and they need to figure it out by summer. This team, I think it is very clear, they're not going to MSI. At least not in this form. And that's fine. That is fine. The plan is for the future, guys. The plan is that Kaido and Shenyi are going to be at least the next 6 to 8 splits, hopefully 10, as some main parts of this team, along with Spica and whoever the heck else they decide to have in top lane and AD carry. That's the truth of the matter. Huni's not going to be here the whole time that Kaido and Shenyi are, most likely. I don't even know if Tactical will be. I hope so. I'd like to think the Tactical could be. You know, I would love for us to keep this stable of 4 solid players for the next 3 seasons, because guess what? That will win us at least 1, maybe 2 championships in the LCS. And I think it'll get us to Worlds more times than not. I think this team... All right, I'm going to talk 2 seconds about Drake real quick before I dive into the potential for this team. We got to stop forgetting about Drakes too. Okay, just plain and simple. Get one of the first 2 Drakes. Said it earlier. Going to say it again. Get one of 2 Drakes. Period. All right. Potential for this team. The potential for this team is much better than I thought. I think Shenyi, even on the Yuumi, wasn't bad, but I could tell like he wasn't like a super comfortable Yuumi player. So I don't want to see that anymore. No more of that, please. I think Tactical is much better than he looked this weekend. I mean, I will say, you know, looking at his stats, you know, being like 1-7-4 or something like that. Let me check this real quick. It was 1-7-6. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I mean, when you're an AD carry, coming out of a weekend with 1 kill is pretty inexcusable, if you ask me. But whatever. It's fine. It's only week 1. We have 8 weeks. I believe next week is a super week, maybe? Is it next week or is it week 3? Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna find this. Where are we at here? Schedule. Okay, so it's week 4, it looks like. Yeah. Yeah, it's week 4. We have Super Week. If we can have, let's say, 3 wins, at least 2, but 3, maybe even. Well, we won't have 4 wins. We're gonna have. We got a pretty tough schedule coming up. We'll go over that, but if we can have 2 wins, if we can win 2 of our next 4 games, and we start seeing improvement by Super Week, which for those of you who don't know, that means that it's the schedule that was last year where we get 3 games in that weekend, then I think we can be in a position to push ourselves into the playoffs. If we have 1 win by then or none, then oh boy, things are not going very well for TSM at that point. Yeah, I think this team has the potential, though, guys. I think Kaiduo specifically surprised me. He is my MVP of the week by a pretty large margin. I think Spica obviously has immense potential. I think Huni's going to be a lot better than even we thought, and we're probably one of the only fan bases that are truly high on him, comparatively to everybody else. I really believe that. And when I look at this team and I think, okay, Tactical has so much potential. I mean, he really does. And we have seen that. We've seen him shine through multiple times. And everybody's like, oh, he doesn't have Core JJ. Whatever. I don't care. Core JJ doesn't make you a great player. Okay, Core JJ absolutely enhances you, makes you better, for sure. But you still have to have the hands. You still have to have the ability to be able to play well. Tactical has that. He'll be fine. It takes a while to figure it out. I mean, think about Lost and Sword Art. They were really never able to figure it out, and they still played decently well. At least better than what we've seen so far. Tactical is going to figure it out. Shenyi, I think, is going to be an absolute stomper. Just give him engage characters. Give him the ability to actually win lane. Or at least be able to help win team fights with great CC. He has great mindset for it. I think he sets positioning pretty well for it. I thought his rail game was really strong, generally. Once this team figures out its play style a little bit more, once they figure out how to play as a team, how to win team fights, how to not give up all the Drakes until they absolutely can't afford to give it up anymore, I think they're going to be great. I think that they could be a top 3 team. Could be. I don't know if they will be. But I would say even within this first split, they could be a top 3 team. And I stand by that. But if they continue to make the same mistakes, if they find a way to make more mistakes, because their early game's really not been too bad. They've been able to stabilize early games pretty well. Their mid-game transition's not great, and their late game is non-existent. But that's to be expected. Again, I think Huni and Spica have both openly stated that. And that's my expectation. As long as they continue to learn and figure this out, I think we're going to be in a great position. I really, truly believe that. And I'm telling you, by summer, please, TSM, do not change any part of this by summer. I don't care who comes in to replace Parth. Dominic, you and I have had a great conversation. Please, do not. I know you don't make all the decisions in terms of the players, but just don't change these players. I think this is a team that could be very, very, very good. They need more time. They've only had 2 weeks really to be together. Give them time. And I get it, C9. Oh yeah, they're already playing well. I don't care. I don't care about that. Good for them. Okay, that's awesome. LS is bringing out stuff that people haven't seen before. They're getting the O factor, right? When Fudge brings out freaking Ivern and a Soraka that he learned right before the game, that's going to throw everybody off. The shielding and the healing was absolutely insane. LS big-brained those 2 games, in my opinion. Okay? That's fine. They're good for them. That stuff will wear off. People will start to figure it out. A lot more anti-heal early on. A lot more anti-shielding early on. I'm just telling you right now. And I think that's great. The LCS is so much fun to watch. There's good teams littered throughout it. Everybody can apparently win. The parity in this league right now looks amazing. Most of these players are playing like much better than I expected them to. This is going to be an exciting LCS year. And if you're not watching, then like you're missing out. I mean, these games, every single game has been a banger. There are new picks coming out. It's not like the old stuff where it was like, oh, it's the same freaking 15 champions. You know, they're banning the ones that we're never going to see in the LCS anyways, and nobody's choosing anything new. Like, that ain't it, champ. There's a lot of good stuff coming from the LCS right now. There's new, young talent, interesting picks, interesting storylines, good games being played. I mean, hell, we're probably one of the bottom 3 teams right now in the LCS. And I think we're solid. I'm excited. I really am. That's why I came in excited. Because I see the potential for this team. And I see the LCS getting better, and I know that that's just going to level our guys up even more. They just started Champion Queue yesterday, and everybody was loving it. I saw Blaze Olive raving about it. I feel bad for everybody who's not on the West Coast, but, you know, right now, if you're an LCS player or you want to be a potential LCS player, find your way out there. Do well in solo queue till you're 17, finish high school, find a way to get out there. You know, I mean, they'll extend it, I know. I think I'm hoping by the end of the year they'll be able to start extending it more and more, you know, maybe East Coast and a West Coast server. I don't know. We'll see. All I know is that people are really excited about it. It's looking good. I think this team is looking a lot better than I expected them to. I think the LCS is looking even better than I expected to. And I'm excited to go into Thursday because we got 2 big games against FlyQuest and Golden Guardians. Really, really important games in my mind for this team. We got the night capper on Saturday, and we get a 4:30 game again on Sunday. Let's see what happens. Be patient. Enjoy this team. Enjoy the LCS being back. All right, if you like the show, please take a second to like, subscribe, and comment if you're watching on our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you don't miss another episode. A lot of great interviews coming out from Michael. Please, go watch them. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to hopefully have some fun while watching them, too. He talked to River about this game, you know, against TSM and about, you know, him coming over to the LCS in the latest one that I saw. So go check that out. Show him some love as well. He's doing a great job. Please continue to support this on all podcasting platforms. I'm pretty sure we're on everything now. I think the last one we needed to get on was Amazon's podcasting platform. And we recently got on there, so yay us. Woohoo! Please share this with your friends. You can hit me up on Twitter at TGHRobertHaynes. Again, I post there whenever there's a potential delay. I let everybody know yesterday. I was driving all over the place. Couldn't sit down to do this yesterday. So follow me at TGHRobertHaynes. You'll hear all the latest. You can also reach out to me. There have been a couple people who've been reaching out to me about things that they like or don't like about the podcast, things that they would like for me to change. I am super open and willing to make those changes for you all because I want this to be something that you enjoy. So thank you for reaching out. Any constructive criticism is absolutely, encouraged. If you're just going to troll me, I'm not going to answer you. But if you're actually going to come with like real comments, real suggestions, I will definitely take them into consideration and do my best. So hopefully, for the person who messaged me this last week, I think I did a better job today. So hopefully you noticed. And if I didn't, then let me know. Again, I will continue to work on it. You can find us at TGH Esports as well. You can head to the Game House. We've got a lot of great content continuously coming out. Pokemon Legends Arceus, if you're looking to figure out how to play some of the stuff in that game, go to the website. We got literal guides, strewn throughout the entire place right now. Terry's been doing a great job with that. So, yeah. With that, thanks for tuning in. The show comes out, and it will next week, hopefully without any distractions, every Monday and Thursday. Today, Tuesday. And it's still exclusively for your TSM ear holes. I'm Robert Haynes, and this has been Talking TSM. I'll see you all on Thursday.